So Bitcoin just broke down 30%, but history says this is when things actually start to get interesting. Is it time to buy? And today I'll break down why I think this is one of the best setups we've had for a while for Bitcoin and for crypto. Now, as far as that goes, we'll go ahead and take a look at the chart. If you've not yet subscribed, make sure that you do so below. I make videos every week and almost daily now. And I've been in crypto for almost a decade. I've been trading, I've been successful. And I love to share what I've learned over the past few years with Bitcoin in the market. So to get those notifications and updates, make sure that you subscribe below. And with that said, let's go ahead and take a look at the daily chart. Beautiful green candle. Love the color green. And that's because Bitcoin broke below the weekly structure there in the black line around $92,000. We broke below that. We did have a nice bounce, but again, we're still stuck below that 200 EMA. Now, the good news is this. Historically, if you take a look the last few times we've broken below that, look what happens. Bitcoin tends to rally quite a bit. And typically it's around 25 to 30%. So over the past year, that's what's happened every time we've broken below this EMA on the daily. With stocks, the good news is that you don't see, at least in the last few years, the SPX, the stock index, break below the daily 200 moving average. And every time it's done that, if you notice here, it's had a bit of a V recovery, meaning that it's quick to bounce back. And you're seeing that right now. After the stock market broke below that structure, it hit around 5,500. That was a sign for a lot of people to step in. Based on what's going on with policy and administration, there's been a ton of uncertainty. But the good news is we have FOMC next week where the Federal Reserve will talk about rate cuts. It's not expected that the Federal Reserve will cut rates, thus leading to a market recovery and bullish for risk assets. So as we go into FOMC, we could have a bit of a rally here because, again, it's already priced in and the market already knows that the Fed is very clear that they're not going to cut rates, as well as the tariffs. The tariffs have been a big scare recently in the market with inflation, but over time, the market adapts to that. It's gotten used to that, and we've dipped quite a bit from the highs. I think we'll see a recovery going into next week, which is good for Bitcoin. The Bitcoin ETF have seen a lot of outflows, and hundreds of millions of dollars have outflowed from the ETFs. But that's not necessarily a bad thing because everyone originally thought that the Bitcoin ETF buyers would be smart money, but it turns out that they've mostly been aping it at the tops and puking the lows for the last year. And if you want to go ahead and look at a detailed chart, you can look over on CoinGlass, this chart, because it shows the total Bitcoin spot ETF net inflow in USD. You're going to notice that the green is the inflow and the red is the outflow. And the orange line, yellow line is Bitcoin price. Now, if you've noticed, what Will said is actually true. You see the most volume in the ETF inflow during the highs or bounces in Bitcoin, that whenever the price is low or it dips, that there's a lot of outflow as far as that goes with the ETFs. Now, we saw the highest inflow in October, November of 2024, but the highs actually at 109K was the last time we've had an uptrend with the ETF inflow. So you've noticed that the green continues to move down. Eventually it turned red. And so over the past few weeks, we've had red outflows, but notice that we could actually have a bottom there, which means that we could be at the recovery phase for the ETF. Eventually here in the coming weeks, we could see a positive net inflow again. That is great news as far as that goes. Now, another thing that I want to show you is this is a chart that I wanted to talk about from Timur Fidelity. He says, despite the announcement of a strategic Bitcoin reserve, the crypto tourists have been selling, as evidenced by outflows from the exchange-traded products, ETPs, which is ETFs. Buy the rumor, sell the news is a cliche that's grounded in truth, as they all are, but perhaps this correction will set up for the next launch. Whether Bitcoin got extended at the 109K mark depends on what adoption curve model you use. My two favorites are the Internet S curve and the power curve of Bitcoin wallet growth. Per the chart below, we seem to have returned to a more grounded valuation levels. If you take a look at this chart right here, you can see that based on these Bitcoin valuation models, we're actually at a pretty good spot right now. We're at the midline of one of the adoption curves, and which means we're well into a place that has good value for buying Bitcoin at the current price. If you've looked at the past cycles historically, Bitcoin price has always outpaced these valuation models. If you look, it doesn't extend as much as the prior cycle. I do believe that if you look at the high pink right there, this is probably going to be the area where Bitcoin potentially has a peak top, at least locally, in the next couple of years or the next few years. What that points to is well over $200,000, $250,000 down to $200,000. I think bottom line, $85,000 Bitcoin right now, that would be a 3x return potentially in the next few years. Now, pure speculation, but based on these pricing models that we've seen Bitcoin follow, there's fair speculation to say that Bitcoin could totally hit these levels of over 200K in the upcoming couple of years. So is this a good time to buy? Absolutely. If you believe in Bitcoin, if you're a long-term Bitcoin holder, or if you're looking to trade in the next year or two, I personally believe, not financial advice, that Bitcoin is at a fantastic place. Whenever you see these 30% pullbacks, that's typically the bottom. 30 to 40% pullbacks in Bitcoin happen quite often, but those tend to be the local bottoms before the next run up. Bitcoin is in a great place, especially if you're waiting for it to break above not only this 200 EMA, but to break back above this 92K level where we saw the range hold support before, which should probably act as resistance this time. If you want to wait to see if that breaks, that's a good time. Just understand that from the bottom, that's about a 20% markup in price. So if you're willing to pay around 20% more from the local bottom, probably not a bad place to buy to make sure that it shows strength there. You definitely want to watch the stock market as well. The Bitcoin correlation to the stock market is not one-to-one, but it's definitely up there. If stocks continue to rally, if in the upcoming months or weeks, we see the Fed start to pivot to dovish and talk about rate cuts coming sooner rather than later, I think you're going to see the stock market rally. Bitcoin should soon follow after that, which should signal a local bottom in the market. Yes, I do believe that we're in a good place as far as that goes, because anytime historically we get these 30% pullbacks, we break below the 200 daily moving average, we tend to see Bitcoin have a nice recovery, at least a 30% bounce on the daily and the weekly. If we can start to get these higher lows in, then I think that's going to show a clear trend change for Bitcoin. Now, a lot of people are asking about other altcoins right now. The highest performing altcoin in the majors over the past day has been Solana. Solana, again, hit its all-time high at $294, almost $300. Understand that is a huge breakdown for Solana over the past few weeks. And so is it a good place to buy Solana? Absolutely. If you are looking at tech overall outside of Bitcoin, Solana has just been outperforming Ethereum as well. The majors that people tend to look at had a 62% pullback, currently around 55% down. It did break slightly below the long-term structure that held for support. Since then, it has bounced above that and has showed tremendous strength compared to a lot of the other majors right now. A lot of the other majors are around 3% up over the last 24 hours. Solana is around 7% up. There are rumors and talks about ETF for Solana being approved. It's one of those altcoins that has a lot of eyes on it and serious people looking to invest in Solana long term. They like the tech. If you're looking at another altcoin, look at what is strong, especially in dips. What recovers faster, what bounces harder, what's performing right now. Solana is one of those altcoins that's showing that. And I think that bottom line, it is one to keep your eyes on. Now, as far as Ethereum goes, still a lot weaker than Bitcoin. We did show the ETH BTC chart. This compares the price of ETH and value of ETH to BTC and ETH has just been on a multi-year downtrend against Bitcoin, meaning that if you were to hold Bitcoin or ETH, anyone holding Bitcoin would greatly outperform Ethereum holders. So just understand that if you are a long-term holder, I would certainly recommend to check out this chart. As history shows, yes, Bitcoin, in my personal opinion, is the better asset to hold. Now, over the next couple of years, can Ethereum outperform Bitcoin? It certainly can. Eventually, this is probably going to bounce, but doesn't mean that it's going to bounce for long term. If you're looking for long-term store of value, Bitcoin totally hands down every time. But for traders, you want to make sure, if you're trading this, you want to make sure on the daily and the weekly that this starts to show some strength. I don't want to look at a 1 or 2 hour bounce in intraday charts. I want to make sure to see that on the daily, this actually shows some strength. Make sure that you look for that historically. There's only been a few times where Ethereum has shown strength and held that against Bitcoin. It wasn't until since it wasn't since June 2022 since we've really seen Ethereum be strong against Bitcoin at a multi-week level. Yes, Bitcoin still hands down. Solana also showing a lot of strength. Those are probably the two majors that I'm looking at right now as far as trading and investing and holding over the next 6 months to a year or more. A lot of good things are going on with Bitcoin. Checking out the altcoins. I'm still waiting to make sure that the market is in total recovery phase. I want to make sure that Bitcoin shows strength because altcoins are high beta to Bitcoin. They are more volatile basically. So if Bitcoin does decide to pull back, if stocks do decide to pull back, understand that altcoins are going to pull back even harder. So do you want to be in altcoins right now? Personally, for me, I'd rather buy Bitcoin. And if I am buying altcoins, it is going to be in those stronger altcoins such as Solana. Yes, I do believe it's a great time to buy Bitcoin, especially if you're a holder long term. And what I want to do here in an upcoming video is talk about, should you buy Bitcoin or should you buy stocks? If you have extra money, what should be your focus of investment? As we've seen long term, the stock market has performed very well over the past few decades, but so has Bitcoin. And I think that's going to be a key focus for a lot of people, where to put their money at long term, because the economy is shaky. There's more uncertainty than ever, and people want to have solid store of values when it comes to their money long term. And that will probably be a focus that we talk on the future. But before that, I just want to remind you, if you've not yet subscribed to the channel, make sure that you do so. Anybody who comments each and every week, we do have a $100 Bitcoin giveaway. So make sure that you not only subscribe, but you comment on the video as well. But you guys, that's it for me. Hope you have a great start to your Friday and to your weekend. As always, trade safe, have a great day, and I'll see you soon.